Welcome to Strange Paradigms. In this weekly show, we'll be taking a look into the news and headlines to pick out curious reports of the strange, weird, and mysterious. Anything from UFO news to science advancements, the paranormal, and stuff labeled fringe science and fringe phenomena. The topics we cover are fascinating, while some are unnerving and others disturbing, but definitely show that we live in a strange world full of strange mysteries. The idea is for you, the viewers, to be able to offer your thoughts and input on the stories we cover right in the live chat. Each news item we go over in the show, I will put all the links to them in the description box below once this live show is over, as well as chapters on the timeline index. Welcome to all my first time viewers and listeners. I hope you find this show informative and that you'll subscribe to this channel and check out my other shows and content. Please make sure to share this video with anyone or groups or forums for those who you think will be interested, because the growth of this channel has a lot to do with you, my wonderful viewers and listeners. Let's say hello to some people in the live chat. Brown Dwarf, thank you for being here and for being a mod as well. Seraph, Sever, Jonathan, good to see you guys. Grey Troll, Deranged Lunatic, thank you so much for the super sticker, starting the day out strong. Brian, thank you as well. I deeply appreciate it. Hides made it. Hides, are you driving today? Serious question. Paranormal Pixie, Laura, how you doing? Michael, welcome. Hey, Rose, thank you for being a YouTube member. I do appreciate that. And Laura, yes, you got to have the ramen, and then my name and a heart. Perfect combination right there. Apollo, welcome. Eddie, welcome. Gary, hello. All right, Jose, Vapor, Brett. Wow, we got a lot of people going on today. A lot of people in the live chat. Two Heads, Hank. I know I'm missing some, but let's get started with today. But also, thank you to all of my mods that are here to help with the live chat. So, there's some pretty bizarre articles I have for you, but before we get started, I do want to mention The Unknown Zone, which now airs every single Monday at 10 a.m. PST. Last week was our very first show, and that was the mysteries of the Piri Reis map, Antarctica, and hints of a lost ancient civilization. This Monday, we will be talking about Machu Picchu and some other mysteries of Peru. I think you're really going to like it. The B-roll is fantastic. And this is, for those that don't know what the Unknown Zone is, it's an 8 to 10 minute short video that goes into detail on specific mysteries. So last week was the Piri Reis map. This one will be about Machu Picchu and some other mysteries of Peru. So now we are doing 4 shows a week on this channel. The Unknown Zone, Shifting the Paradigm, Mysteries with a History, and this one, Strange Weekly News. You guys keep me busy, but I love it. I love covering all of these weird and strange mysteries that happen on planet Earth and beyond. So let's get into our first article. I have some pictures here to share, as I do for all of the articles that we are covering. So for those that are listening to this on a podcast platform, jump over to YouTube, because this show in particular is a more of a visual show, as I'm always sharing pictures with the articles covered. So let's pull up this first image. And before I even get into the article, what are you seeing here? What does this look like? Honestly, it looks slightly frightening, just a tad, but it'll make more sense as I go along with this article. Here's another image. Here's another one. Looks kind of like a person sitting in a lotus position, almost like a monk in my perspective. This one looks, in a sense, like an angel, but let's talk about this. So, scientist and inventor Daniel Nemes has always had a fascination with science and astronomy. So, he has long asserted that he has access to technology that enables him to capture or record extraterrestrial beings, in this case, interdimensionals. And he developed an interest in things with many dimensions after reading an article about dark matter. And that's how it usually starts. It just takes one article, one question, one book, one conversation that just takes you on a different path, or even a sighting as well. So it's not hard to get into these fields of the mysterious. You just need that callus to get started. And in this case, for Daniel, he read an article on dark matter, and then from there he was like, I need to know more. So later, his enthusiasm inspired him to create a device that uses mathematical techniques to capture multidimensional objects. Now, this is a pretty interesting one, and I think in the respect of this research, there isn't much information on it. As for how the media handles this, they don't really cover it too often. And he made mention in an interview, excuse me, he made mention in an interview that he's keeping his techniques or his devices very secretive. It is called Energivision. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. So he's keeping his technology, Energivision, really on the down low, on the DL, because he has this fear that if it is made public, it somehow in some way could be weaponized. So he was aware of existing technologies such as black light, infrared, ultraviolet, and others, but he wanted more. So he created a better one that could capture things that nobody and nothing else had ever been able to record before. And that's why it's called Energivision. So this article is pretty short, but I think it's something for the most part worth mentioning. If people had this technology in hand, I mean, these ones look slightly terrifying if you're looking at these, but if people had this technology in hand, would they reconsider what ghosts are, where maybe they could be these multidimensional entities instead? And this is a question that I'm always asking the paranormal investigators on my show, Shifting the Paradigm. What is a ghost to you? Because it seems to vary. Now, the majority of people, when they think of ghosts, they say it's someone that's died. Okay, but they didn't necessarily cross over. They didn't go through that tunnel of light, for instance. But in some other respects, especially with Jim Harold, who has an incredible podcast. I think it's like one of the biggest spooky podcasts in the world. If you don't know who he is, check him out. He's amazing. But I had him on the show and I asked him that exact question. What do you think ghosts are, in your opinion? And he said, I think it's more than just dead people, but it could very well also be interdimensionals, multidimensionals, and we're just getting these labels confused. In the same respect of with ghosts, we don't necessarily always see them, but they're able to manipulate objects in our plane of existence, our realm. Well, it could be that these multidimensional beings could do the exact same. Here is the inventor, Daniel, and here are some of his photos. This one looks very much like an alien gray. Maybe because it's gray, for instance. I'm not too sure. But this one looks rather bizarre. It looks something that belongs in a sci-fi movie. And this one kind of gives me Prometheus vibes going on right here. But for those looking at these photos, what are your thoughts on this? And we can discuss that before we continue. This one, we got the fire entity going on right here. Angel type entity through my eyes. Of course, we all have different perspectives on what these things could be. Sean says teddy bear. Very cute. Laura says, in my experience, ghosts and spirits are us. They are also other beings. I think that's something worth talking about. And Dan, I'm happy you brought this up. UFOs and the paranormal are connected. I see them both all the time. And this is also another question I ask every single one of my guests on Shifting the Paradigm is, do you believe there is a convergence between the UFO and paranormal phenomenon? And the majority of people say yes, now more so than ever. And I think that if we look 10 years back, 15 years back, they were two separate fields, the UFO field and the paranormal. They didn't necessarily meet eye to eye. Now, in today's world, in 2022, researchers and myself, we're beginning to realize that you can't necessarily have one without the other, or we're just getting all of these labels confused. And we're thinking that one thing is another, but they could very well be the exact same. But it is the labels that are making everything that much more difficult. Skyhawk says no clowns. Always no clowns. I'm gonna pass on that one. No. Eddie mentions, are ghost humans that die in our dimension, but they actually continue living here in the fourth dimension? I'm open-minded to that possibility. And there has been some somewhat extensive research when it comes to ghosts and understanding how they're able to exist in their realm, how they're able to interact in hours and things like this. But that information, for the most part, isn't either one, made public, or two, it's just not covered by the mainstream media because people, which is unfortunate, some people just don't care. And then there's us. We care about all of these things. We want to know, we want to understand these mysteries. And that's a big reason to why I cover this show, is looking at all the strange weekly news from around the world and to discuss it with you, which and in this case we're all very like-minded. Sean says, Cristina, your recent interview with Steve Mara covered some of these points. Absolutely. When I interviewed him, he opened my mind to a lot of these possibilities. And he was one of the first researchers that I interviewed who really talked about that convergence between the two, the paranormal and the UFO phenomenon. So he's done, in my opinion, currently, in my knowledge is still limited, I think that he's done probably some of the most extensive research on the convergence between the two, maybe compared to a few others. Now, I still haven't finished speaking to a bunch of other investigators, so I don't know if that's actually the case, but he was someone that really pushed me really hard into that path of seeing that convergence, more so than how I already had looked at it. If you haven't seen that interview, for those listening, I do recommend it. Steve Mara is a brilliant mind, and we covered some really fascinating topics. My right contact just a little bit wonky, but I think we should be fine for today. If not, I'll be just putting on some glasses. So if you see me like making some weird eye movements and like just weird things, it's the contacts. So these are some photos. This one looks like a skeleton. You see the skull, you see like this type of rib cage. This one, I said it's a fire entity, but the more I look at it, it looks kind of like a fire ant. Okay, it's like a fire, it's like an ant on fire, and it has like little scary thingies and some antennas. Spooky. Very spooky. What I would like to mention is that mirrors have to be involved with making these images. As you were able to see, they were practically symmetrical. And so it makes me question, how was Daniel able to create this technology that he had made mention of? And how does it really work? So that's something that I was seeing in the images, and I'm gonna share it just one more time for you, just to show you literally what I'm talking about, because maybe you're going to see the same thing. You're seeing two almost perfect hats. Actually, these are completely perfect. It looks kind of like one of the statues from Easter Island. But here again, you're getting that symmetrical look. And as we know, nothing, absolutely nothing, is perfectly symmetrical. In this case, they are. It goes to show that it very well is a type of a mirror. And if you look just down the middle, there's a divider, right? And you're seeing that perfect reflection. So each side is a reflection of the other side. Okay. Linda says, scary. Hyde says, I see Mothman, but that's just me. It's because you're doing extensive research on the Mothman. You got to see it everywhere. That's how I am when I do my research sometimes. I begin seeing it everywhere, on television, online, in conversations, and I'm like, what? But in this case, this is an example of pareidolia, which is when you see something and then you can see a face, which there might not even be a face, but your brain is already interpreting it as one. pretty cool, actually, how that works. This next one is a bit more of a comical one. It's kind of funny. How many of you are Han Solo fans? You you probably are. Well, in this case, I'm just gonna read the beginning of this article verbatim because it's so fun. It's written in a comical way, and it says some may consider Han Solo to be a hunk, but Pan Solo is a hunk of bread. Whoever wrote this, a immediate A plus going on right there, because that is hilarious. And pan in Spanish, converting it to English, means bread. So bread solo, pan solo. It's funny. So this what we're looking at right here was created in a bakery just a little bit outside of San Francisco in California. And this is 6 feet tall, this huge hunk of bread. That is the depiction of Han Solo. And this is in the moment for those that are listening to this. I'm explaining how it looks. This is in the moment where the character, as he appeared after being frozen in carbonate in The Empire Strikes Back. That's a pretty famous scene. We've seen a lot of pictures or renditions of that online. So just picture that in your mind. That's what you're seeing, but it's made out of bread. So you have the Pervin family. They're both bakers. They own the One House Bakery in Benicia, California, and they spent weeks modeling, baking, and assembling the life-sized sculpture using wood and 2 types of dough, including a type of yeastless dough with a higher sugar content that will last longer. Here's some more images that I have for you. Here's a more of a close-up one. Honestly, this is absolutely incredible. If anything, it looks a lot more like cement than it does bread. There's another one just to kind of give a reference on how tall this thing is. You can even see that they did the detail on the shoes as well. And if you also look in the back, right, you are able to see the wood in the background, right, to give it a structure. I'd hope so. This woman does not look impressed at all. She's like, nah, I could have done better at home. But this is amazing. So we're gonna keep this picture up while we continue. So these two worked every single night after the bakery closed to create this absolute masterpiece. Now, the younger one, this is a funny story because they had to do an interview for their beautiful creation, as they did actually put it into a contest, and we're going to get into that. But in the interview, the daughter had made mention stating, "Mom made me leave it because I was obsessed over the lips. She was like, you need to walk away." So the mother and the daughter worked extensively to create this beautiful piece of art. And if we just do a zoom in on the lips, they are well done as well. Well done as well. That's funny. And it goes to show that while they did obsess over the creation of this, they did an amazing job. And they both mentioned that they were able to have so much joy doing this because food is very important. Food is the heart, is the way to someone's heart. And as my mom always told me when I was younger, and even to this day, they're like, she mentioned the way to a person's heart is through their stomach. And coming from a Latin American culture, you always bring food when you enter someone's house. That is a must. You can never ever go to someone's house empty-handed. Have it be your family, have it be your friends, have it be a neighbor. Gotta have food because then they'll like you just a little bit more. It's also a cultural thing. So never leave the house empty handed. Unfortunately, for this structure, it will not last forever, and the dough eventually will be composted but not eaten, right? Because that would be kind of a hazard. This one is pretty funny. Linda says, "Christina, what is your favorite Latin dish?" I gotta stay traditional, and I really, really like arepas, which are the Venezuelan version of pupusas, I think is what they're called, which are really, really good. But I also really like just plantains made anyway, fried, grilled, chip version. I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. Love them all. They are so good. But when you're looking at this creation, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's a piece of art or do you think it's a waste of food? Keep in mind, they did put this into a contest and we'll see how that goes. M says, where's the mold? Bread gets moldy, no? As they had made mention, they did use a yeastless dough, which has a higher content in sugar. I don't know if that prevents mold. Maybe they put some type of silicone type of coating over the bread. I'm not too sure. The article, unfortunately, did not go into detail on those aspects. But if you look at it, it looks pretty darn solid and also a little bit shiny. Bread isn't shiny, so I can only assume they put something over it to prevent like bugs eating it and other animals eating it because that would be a disaster. It would not be good. Actually, be probably very, very gross. So, yeah. Let's close this one out. Actually, I'm just going to go over these pictures one more time. As you can tell, she's touching it. Here, this is one of the creators, probably the mother. And you're just seeing how big this is. You're able to see the structure on the inside, made out of wood. Pretty cool. I don't have that kind of talent or even that type of patience to create something like that, which is crazy. Was so awesomely done. And I don't know who else is running, who's getting into this contest, which is the Main Street Scarecrow contest. But I want to see all of the entries on this one and see which one wins. I hope they win. It'd be kind of cool. All right, moving on to our next one. This one is more space related. So as we are aware, people are getting tickets to go to the edge of space, right, for billions of dollars. Elon Musk wants to take his first tour around the moon and back. But if you don't have millions of dollars, there is a more, what's the word I want to use? One that a more average person can go on. And a space tourism firm will give passengers a life-changing balloon ride that will go to the edges of space in 2025. But a ticket on board will be set to at least $200,000. That's not a million, but 200 grand is still a lot. Madrid-based company Halo Space is planning to offer its zero-emission commercial flight aboard a stylish circular capsule attached to an inflated balloon. The capsule will carry 8 passengers plus 1 pilot per trip. And as you can tell here, it has panoramic windows that allow 360-degree views of the Earth while at an altitude of up to 25 miles or 40 kilometers. Halo Space would be conducting its first test flight on a prototype of its space capsule in India this December. That has just been announced. So once it completes successful trials, the company will start its commercial flights in 2025 and later plan to have flight bases installed in 4 continents. This is going to be like an international thing. It is pretty darn cool. Jessica, you are so right. The average person doesn't have 200 grand laying around. That's absolutely right. But for those that still want to get that taste of space, but don't have millions of dollars, right? 200 grand, if you have it, you're probably going to spend it on something like this because when it comes to Blue Origin or SpaceX, yeah, it's a pretty crazy, but you're also going to get a nice view in both respects for Blue Origin and SpaceX, but also for this new one. And as we know, right, prices are coming down. Prices will be coming down for Origin, SpaceX, and also for this company as well. So, yeah, the first few flights are going to be pretty excessive, but as the years progress, how much will it cost in the future? Will it be more accessible? Probably. I think so. But here's the question: when will the first space hotels be built in orbit? As we are aware, the International Space Station is going to have an extra little section specifically for filming movies for influencers as well. And they'll be able to film in space. Pretty cool. So we are seeing that progress there with film. We're seeing it with tourism. Next is going to be hotels and then restaurants. And then we're going to be living a fantasy of space dandy. If you haven't watched an anime, that's literally all about stuff like this. It is also very funny. And from 2029, it will make a total of 400 commercial trips with 3,000 passengers per year. So they already have their bar set pretty high on what they want to accomplish in just 4 years. Now, if you are enjoying the show so far, make sure to hit the like button because it really does help the YouTube algorithm. So thank you. When I came across this article, I found it honestly pretty fascinating. Here's another image of how it's potentially going to look. Once again, the first prototype launch will be this December. Once that launches, we'll probably cover this again in December on Strange Weekly News to see how it went and if they're going to proceed to have commercial tourist flights in 2025. This, as I had mentioned, is zero emission. Super cool. They're just using a balloon to get up there. So it makes me question, how long does it take them to get to the edges of space? I bet the view will be amazing if it's 5 minutes or 5 hours. I'm all for it. But that is my question. How long will it take to go up and come down? Would you go on this? If you had 200K laying around, would you go on this? Have it be the first few flights as soon as it launches, or a few years down the line when the prices are hopefully lower? I think if I was given the opportunity, I would go for it. I would definitely make sure to bring snacks. Have to. Anywhere I travel, I got to bring snacks. But aside from that, if given the opportunity, why not? I think it'll be very cool. Is there a toilet? Sarah, that is a very important question. Is there a toilet? Is there a snack bar? Are there drinks? I think that with the price tag of $200,000, there should darn be a toilet and there should darn be some snacks on there as well. TMI says, absolutely, yes, I'd go. Michael says, I'd love to go. I think that'd be awesome. Sarah says, I want to sail a boat on top of a banana balloon personally. I see what you did there. That's funny. Jose brings up a really good point. Let's just send puckwudgies to space instead of monkeys. But see, no one's captured a puckwudgie. So how would they be able to do it? But now, if they did send puckwudgies to space, I better be on that ship as well. That would be my only exception. Like, you are not allowed to launch a spaceship with puckwudgies without Cristina Gomez on it. No, it'll be outlawed. Hyde says, if you had 200K laying around, you'd get a stupid big super chat. Thanks. Yeah, well, we've I think I'm so grateful for this community and all the support that everyone has provided for me. And I'm so taken aback and I'm so grateful for all of you for watching these shows live, for sharing these shows, for liking them, and for supporting. If you have the finances to do so. If not, just being here truly does mean a lot to me, and to share these mysteries with you because they're strange and sometimes it's not fun to research them on your own. Got to share it with the world, right? Get them just as nerded out as you are, or in this case, as I am. So this article is a pretty darn short one, but I think very, very cool. I liked this one. All right, so I don't even know where my picture is, but quite a few times I've made mentions, like probably the second show or third show so far, where I said, on Strange Weekly News, what do you want to see the most of? What do you want to hear most about? And it was always UFOs, UFO sightings, UFO encounters, UFO anything. So that's why I am bringing you more UFO sightings and encounters people have had somewhat recently, hopefully, and then just recently published. So this next one, the sighting was on August 5th, but it was literally, the article was just published, I think, yesterday. So we're a little bit behind, but it's still relevant. And oh, I do have a picture for it. Yes, I do. You're going to be like, what am I showing you? It'll make sense as I read the article. So, an Idaho witness reported watching a bright neon green colored sphere with an aura or haze around it flying into the clouds at about 10:30 a.m. on August 5th, 2022, according to testimony from NUFORC, which is National UFO Reporting Center. This man has remained anonymous, but he did write down what he saw to NUFORC. So I'm going to read you verbatim on what this person wrote. It says, I was in my backyard looking around at night in the northwest direction when I heard a very weird boom. I assume a sonic boom since I've never heard one in person before. The boom felt like it came from the other side of my fence where the sidewalk would be, but the sound itself felt like thunder, originating from somewhere far away and from a single point. I looked in the direction of the boom, either west or west southwest in direction, to suddenly see an incredibly bright neon light appear up in the sky and a little to the right of where I felt the boom originate. He had mentioned that it was perfectly sphere, whatever this object was. And then it states, I also looked it also looked to be whitish green in the center, like the sun, being more red looking on the outside and wider near the center due to the difference in light intensity towards our direction. The object also had a neon green near spherical aura, I assume, is from the intensity of the light illuminating the humidity in the night air, as it had rained that day and the humidity was sticking around. When it comes to UFO sightings, for the most part, if not almost every single time, the craft is completely silent. People are able to see something really, really big in the sky, maybe even manipulations of the clouds, but they usually don't make a sound, or especially not a sonic boom, because that would not make them stealthy, correct? But in this case, for this man in Idaho, he was able to see the craft, see the colors, see it manipulate the clouds, but also it was the sonic boom that took him by surprise. And it's something that I have not necessarily come across extensively in my research when looking at UFO sightings and encounters. So it makes me question, what do you think about this sonic boom sound? Dan says, it does look like a portal. Well, this is just a picture I took off from online, just as an image, just to show you while I read the article, but this isn't actually what he saw. Yeah, I just use it as a visual aid. But his testimony continues, and he states the object was flying to the right and entered what looked like a tunnel of some sort going into some clouds I didn't see until the object lit up. The edges of the tunnel had fingers of clouds coming out of them that looked like tropical type clouds. Like the edges of this tunnel were fuzzy and undefined. Very interesting. After flying about 8 to 10 minutes, the sphere's diameter into the tunnel, and that's my only reference for dimension. The sphere dimmed really fast, like someone slammed the lights, like the light dimming switch from a house light, until everything disappeared, including the tunnel and associated clouds. That is weird. The object disappeared, the tunnel disappeared, and the clouds disappeared as well. Did he just witness a wormhole being created and vanishing? I have no idea. It is unfortunate that this witness was not able to take photographs of what he saw, but he did give a rather detailed testimony to Newfork. But again, it's the sonic boom that makes me question why. It doesn't follow the norm. But could it just be a different type of craft? Was the craft made here on Earth? Is it man made of some kind? A black project? Or is it, if we're taking the extraterrestrial route, is it from maybe a type of extraterrestrial that might not have necessarily incredibly sophisticated technology like a few others? I'm not sure. These are just things worth considering. Hank, sleepy eyes. Well, thank you. I am actually pretty exhausted. I had some finals this week, and so I've been like doing pretty darn like late night studying along with everything else, such as prepping for this show and other shows to come and doing interviews, but then also having a job and attempting to eat like 3 meals a day. So yeah, sleepy eyes could also be the contacts as well. But hopefully my voice doesn't sound sleepy. I don't want to put you to sleep. I want you to be entertained, but also excited for these mysteries and these stories that we are covering right here today. This is an interesting question or statement. Cloaking bigger ship, taking in a smaller ship. But does that what about the sonic boom? We're able to see that the clouds disappeared, the tunnel disappeared. There were some incredibly bright lights, and if anything, completely different colored lights from this man's testimony. But we are still hearing the sonic boom. What? Skyhawk says that Bruce Gernon called it an electronic fog. I need to look that up. I have heard something similar to that, but I have not done extensive research on it specifically, but it has come across in my research. So DJ Knight says sus, meaning suspicious. It is suspicious. Now from what I can remember, there was a type of like similar thing in the Bermuda Triangle where like a pilot flew into a similar tunnel, and it had like an instance of time travel occur, allegedly, from what I've looked at, where he came through a tunnel. There were all these weird looking clouds, and allegedly was able to time travel, but somehow is able to make it back here. Was that happening in this case? Maybe this craft was time traveling. I don't know. All we can do is speculate and guess, but we don't have the answers to these questions. But it is something that you and I can definitely muse about for hours, if not days, on this one story, or even make it a base of a science fiction script or book or movie. That would also be really fantastic as well. And his testimony still continues a little bit further. As I had made mention at the beginning of the show, all of the links to these articles will be in the description box below once this live show is over. So if you do want to look at these articles in extensive detail or do your own research, all of that information will be available for you. Okay, I do have a pretty strange article for you. And I am going to share my screen. I don't know. I think I'm going to read it to you first. There is a man from Brazil by the name of Sidney Mesquita who's able to pop out his eyeballs nearly 2 centimeters out of their sockets. I'm going to share the image now. Okay, yeah, this is pretty scary. We're in for the spooky season. So his eyes are not always like this. I do want to make mention. I have the video, the YouTube video, him actually like able to like pop out his eyeballs. But he's able to do this due to some very rare condition where he has this, where he's able to just extend his eyes out compared to the average person. This is 2 centimeters. So he won the Guinness World Record for popping out his eyeballs the farthest compared to anybody else. And there's been a few people that have had this title before him. A few, not just one, not just two, several. But he is the winner right here. And I think that in this image, and also this article makes mention of the same thing that I was thinking, he does look like the Addams family's Uncle Fester. Right? Right? Is anyone seeing this? Because it looks pretty wild. So he actually walked the streets, I think it was in the UK, and he was just showing random people that was able to bulge out his eyes and seeing the expressions of these people that are like, oh my goodness, what are you doing? I'm not going to lie to you. When I came across this article, I really did attempt to see if I could bulge out my eyes. I can't. I tried. It did not work. My eyes, yeah, they don't pop out of my skull like this man right here. Okay, I'm gonna just take off that image. It's a little bit scary, but I do have this video of him actually being able to bulge out his eyes, and I'm gonna find the exact clip. I had it, and then I lost it. Oh, there it is. We're just gonna make this really short. This clip. But if you look at it, so his eyes are normal. And then bam, he just pops them out. Okay, see? Yeah, I'm only going to show that once. It's pretty freaky. Let's move on to our next article because that one is just a little wild. He's got some anime eyes going for him. Pretty scary. But see, he doesn't even need like horror Halloween makeup because he is a Halloween costume. All right. Let's move on to our next one. This, and I gotta find the photo for it. Oh, here it is. Okay, how many of you are familiar with this image? Now, it just burnt down, which is rather unfortunate. But does this look familiar to anyone? Because this is the Frisco UFO, and it was destroyed just Wednesday night in a night fire. And this is called the Frisco Futuro house. And this is pretty famous, one that people are able to visit because it really does look like a UFO, but it was made by just your average guy here on Earth. It isn't actually a UFO, but it is a type of tourist attraction. However, just recently, it burnt down. Yeah, it burnt down at 10 p.m. on Wednesday, which is really, really unfortunate. Now, for those, see, James is familiar with this place, Futuro Home, yep. It's a famous destination for people such as ourselves that are interested in these conversations. Hank, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate that. And Tasaka, thank you as well. Tasaka for the super sticker. Thank you. So when I saw these images, and there's a few, it's just completely just tarnished. It just melted completely. Here's another image of it during the nighttime fire. And this location was beloved by so many that are interested in the UFO phenomenon. So to see it totally burnt down has broken a lot of people's hearts. This was designed in the 1960s. So it lasted a pretty darn long time. As to what started the fire, it's unknown at this point. We are currently not fully aware of what happened. At least that's what the article has made mention of. Now, will the answer be found? Probably at some point in time. Was it by accident or was it deliberate? Right now, we don't know, but that answer could change. This one, yeah, it must have been hot to burn metal. Absolutely. It's Groggy says it may be an electrical fire. Possibly. Once again, at this point, we just don't know. But this one was originally created in the 1960s, and there's roughly about 100 of these flying saucer-like homes that were built in the late 60s and 70s, and less than 20 are left in the United States. Yeah, so this one, so the original one was made in the 1960s. This one that we're looking at now was built in 1972. Drinking some water. But I did not have the privilege to go to this location, and I wish I did. But as I had made mention, there are 20 similar to this one. So it's sad that this one burnt down. For those that still want to see another one, there are others across the United States. And luckily that the structure, it was unoccupied at the time of the fire, and there were no injuries reported in the incident, which is good. But we are still waiting on updates. Professor says Pukwudgie is most likely. Hopefully they didn't start the fire. And I know Brian made that joke. We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. That's a jam. That's a really good song. And I would like to say really quick, Groggy, you're watching this on Twitch and others on Twitch. Feel free to join in the live chat over here on YouTube. So just do a search for Cristina Gomez. There is no H in Cristina. So it's just Cristina. If you want to join the live chat. Okay. This is unfortunate, and we're gonna continue our next article on a higher note. This is a pretty fascinating invention. And startup turns desert sand into fertile soil in just 7 hours. This is spectacular. I'm going to share my screen here of the actual image, meaning that these are images that were taken from the experiment, from the startup. So this is a Norwegian startup, Desert Control, claims that it can fight everything that's going on by spraying sand with liquid nano clay, or LNC, and turning it into soil in a matter of hours. In the past, as it states, that there have been a lot of people that have attempted to be green heroes, right? That are helping to fight things that are going on right here. Excuse me, just my my speech impediment is coming up a little bit. Sorry, maybe it's the lack of sleep, but please forgive me on that. But things that are dealing with our environment and cutting down trees, deforestation, things like this, and things that are relating to wanting to allow our deserts to be, in a sense, an oasis. This company right here is attempting to do that. So, farmers have been using clay to increase the fertility of their lands for thousands of years. And so, this new company creating their nano clay kind of grabbed onto that and creating something that now sand can be turned into fertile soil in just a few hours. So this liquid nano clay sounds fancy, but it's made with just water and clay. That's it. The company's secret is its ability to turn thick clay into a liquid nearly as thin as water, which is then sprayed over the sand, creating this top layer, and then kind of seeping in just a few centimeters into the ground. It's pretty spectacular. Hopefully, I do hope that they do get more funding on this to make this a global thing that anyone can get their hands on and to use, because from the research that I've done, when it comes to creating things like this, or as the article had mentioned, green heroes, people that are creating these amazing pieces of technology to help our environment, it's not necessarily used that much due to like lack of funding or lack of knowledge and things like this. So hopefully this company in particular will surpass that and become more well known and more popular though. But like it says nano, okay? Like it kind of makes me think that it is some form of like tiny like particles being used, maybe in clumps or something. I mean, anything with nano in the word is like artificial and tiny, right? But in this case, they're saying that it's just water and clay, and that's why it's called nano clay. But I'm thinking maybe there's something artificial in that. And we don't know, or it's just a really cool name that they thought of. I don't know. So for the cost of treatment ranges from $5 to $2, so $2 to $5 per square meter, or about 11 square feet. So it's not exactly cheap considering the vast areas that need to be treated with liquid nanoclay in order for agriculture projects to make sense. However, desert control plans to develop units capable of producing large amounts of liquid nanoclay, which would bring down the price considerably. All right, so that answers the question. It's a bit expensive, and that's why people just aren't going for it. But as they had made mention, if you just produce a lot of it, the prices will go down. And at some point in time, we're going to have to be using this stuff. James, thank you so much. It says starter fund for your balloon flight. Just add some zeros. Haha. Thanks, James. Now my contact is getting a little weird. And there is more information on this startup if you are interested in looking more into it. Once again, the articles and the links to those articles will be below. All right, moving on to our next one. I have another UFO story for you. Boop, we're going to close that. And we're going to open up another one. I think we only have about 30 minutes left, but I think I might need to take out my contacts because they're just getting a little difficult to read. Okay. Here is our UFO picture. I know it is not tantalizing. It is not cool. You're seeing a blob in the sky, but it is the story and the testimony that make it that much more interesting. So just bear with me here as you look at this image while I take out my contacts. All right. Now you can't see me because some people just don't like that kind of stuff, and I don't blame you. Touching your eyeball is pretty scary. All right, we got one of them out. It's only just like one contact that's bothering me, but I can't put on one contact and glasses, right? That doesn't really work. Okay. I mean, we already had a scary eyeball video. I don't want to add to that fear factor when it comes to eyeballs, right? I don't want to be a part of that. Thank you very much. I already attempted to like bulge out my eyeballs and that didn't work. So we're just going to keep the taking out my contacts a secret. Okay, but now we have my glasses. So much better. I think I'll be able to read a bit more efficiently. So here, again, it's a lame image. I know, but just bear with me. So Neil Levisley spotted two mysterious objects in the sky above his home in Handsworth in the UK on Wednesday morning. This is pretty recent. Brad, thank you so much for the super sticker. And he said that he saw what appeared to be like big round balls in the sky. Neil is 80, okay? And he took pictures and video on Wednesday. He stated that these just looked out of the ordinary. They looked a little bit too odd to be airplanes, helicopters, drones, and things like this because one, they were pretty big, first off. Two, he believed them to be like pretty darn round. And he cited in his interview that I don't believe in UFOs and little green men, but I couldn't explain what this was. I just come out of my front door and I saw what looked like big round balls. You hear about things like weather balloons as explanations for things like this, but they were moving up and down and left to right pretty sharpish, and they were there for a while. Yeah. Groggy, welcome to the YouTube chat. Coming over from Twitch. I appreciate it. Jessica, thank you so much. It says RV fund and RV equipment fund. I'm going to get you there little by little. Thank you. Thank you. I'm keeping an eye out on some really nice RVs that I'm really excited to place in my my big consideration box so that when I purchase it, I think you all, everyone watching and listening, will be the first to know. You'll be able to see the pictures online, and then we're gonna find a really cool name for our new RV when it happens, which will be hopefully sooner than later. Definitely in the next year or so, year or less. Pretty good, I think. So thank you, Jessica. I have some more images here that he took. So you got these two perfect round balls, as he had mentioned, in the sky. Here they are again. And he, as he had stated, they were moving very sharpish. And that is verbatim on what he said. Now they're moving up and down, side to side, pretty quick, pretty sharp. No, it can't be your average airplane or helicopter. Drone, possibly, but it was just moving a little bit too fast, in his opinion, to be a drone. Yeah, pretty interesting. So the video that he took were also sent over to a university, to David Clark, and we have heard that name before. And he stated, David Clark had said, there are many things it could be. It could be a daylight meteor, it could be an aircraft, or many, many other things. But the most unlikely thing would be any sort of alien life form. Well, that's a bit of a bummer, if you ask me. David Clark is more of a skeptic, right? He doesn't want to take that alien route, and I do not blame him. We do need to be skeptical, but also be an open-minded skeptic. If he states that there's probably couldn't be an alien life form, it's something worth considering. Not everything we see in the sky has to be alien, but it's fun to think about if that were the case. Neil, the guy that saw this 60-year-old man, said, I don't think it was anything conventional. But then Dr. David Clark said, It could be literally anything. Literally anything. But I don't think it's aliens. And either way, we have to talk about these things. Sometimes we are going to be disappointed because sometimes we want the answers that we specifically want, meaning that we want to be told it's aliens when it very well isn't at all. Other times, people will brush things off as a drone, the drone explanation is the new swamp gas, it is the new weather balloon answer. And sometimes those answers could actually be extraterrestrials. We don't know. And that's why we are in this field to ask these questions. And nobody here is an expert. No one has all the answers. And that's why we are talking about them to understand a little bit better. Well, on the conversation of UFOs, I'm just going to leave this picture. No, I'm going to take it down. I have just another picture. Just to look at while I read this. Dun, dun, dun. Probably the new famous image when it comes to the UFO field, but the title is Cover-Ups Could End by Christmas with US Government Blowing Whistle on Alien Activity. This one, for those that aren't familiar, this is the famous gimbal image that you probably see in like so many articles when they talk about UFOs now, which is it's a very cool image. Don't get me wrong, but we've seen it so many times. But it is better than CGI, so I'm okay with it. Getting into this article, the Libertarian Times last week had stated that whistleblowers connected to alien activity could speak before Congress. The outlet reports that public congressional hearings on UAPs should be expected once the National Defense Authorization Act is signed into law. According to the report, the NDAA, which generally provides guidance and funding for national defense agencies, now includes the Intelligence Authorization Act language that provides certain whistleblower protections. We've not here on this specific channel to an extent, but we have touched on it. This is a really big thing that a lot of people in our community have been talking about, have been hoping for, and have been expecting as well. That if people are coming out, whistleblowers to be specific, they're going to be placed under an umbrella of protection. Well, they'll be able to speak freely and there won't be dire consequences. This is really important. And it's now becoming more legit, which is awesome. So if that language remains, the NDAA is signed into law. Sources have allegedly told the outlet that whistleblowers connected to UFO activity information have been contacted to speak before Congress. And as we had made mention, that could very well be from now until December. That's pretty close. I think that would be the best Christmas gift of all time. Forget the newest tech, forget the newest phone stuff. A congressional hearing with whistleblowers? Get me 5, please and thank you, Santa Claus, because that would be very, very cool. Some of these sources, according to the report, have a sustainable amount of information involving secretive UAP retrieval and back engineering programs. That has also been verified by Congress. That part is in quotation marks in the article. Quote, verified by Congress. So while dates for action are in flux due to the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine and potentially hectic aftermath of the midterm elections, Libertarian Times claimed that the best case scenario is seeing congressional hearings before Christmas. I think it's a great time to have them. So for those listening and watching, I'm going to have an eye out for this. And if those congressional hearings are public, because, with our last one, we had one public one and one private one. The public one, we actually had it on the YouTube channel, watching it live with you. So hopefully with this one, it'll also be another public one that we can also share it here on this channel to get more people interested in it, because it's being taken seriously by the United States government. That's a big deal. We do need to keep in mind that there have been other UAP offices across the world. Now, I'm just kind of thinking back to what I said. I said I'll keep an eye out for it, but like not literally like an eye out though, okay? Like OMG, that eyes bulging video is like a shadow over this show now. So I'm gonna be really careful when I say my eyes, I'm gonna keep an eye on it, because now all I can see is just that image in my brain of that guy who won the Guinness World Record for bulging out his eyes 2 centimeters. No, thank you. So I'm just gonna just gonna be a little bit more careful on when I say that. But this is really, really big news, guys. This is huge news. We're going to get more congressional hearings. We have been talking about that since May when the first one came out, but we didn't know how soon that was going to be, because the one that we had in May, that was after like 60 something years, right? So now we're getting them pretty darn close to each other. One in May, we're getting one in December. I'm excited for Christmas. Forget the snow, and I love snow. I want some more congressional hearings. It's going to be very cool. For those that aren't familiar with these UFO congressional hearings, that article does go more into depth on that. We won't be covering that today because we have done so extensively prior. But if you want to know more about those, or the last one that we had in May, or even the preliminary report that we had in June of last year, this article does touch on it. And yeah, so keep an eye out for that. Jonaside, thank you so much. It says, really enjoy these Friday news shows. Thanks, Jonaside, for supporting and for being a mod as well. You're awesome. Okay. Let me go over to our next article. Oh, this one's really cool. So, I wasn't always a techie nerd. Yes, I like tech. I have become more techie nerdy over the time doing research on everything weird, mysterious, and the UFO phenomenon. It just makes me appreciate it that much more. Well, there is this new car coming out. But this isn't just a car that can drive on the road. It's a car that can also fly, like in the Meet the Jetsons, I think that's what it's called. And it looks slick. I mean, this thing is a sexy beast of a car. So it's going to be the world's first real flying car, worth almost 300,000 euros. And it's set to hit our roads and our skies pretty soon. So the Aleph Aeronautics Model A will still drive on roads, but can take off and soar above traffic jams to beat the rush hours. That's something that anyone that lives in the city definitely needs, because just sitting in a traffic jam, especially like on a highway or something, or if there's like construction going on the road and you're already running late to whatever you're running late to, it is the literal worst. Why? Because you're not breathing normally anymore. You can't appreciate the music on the radio, or if you have your aux cord plugged in, right, to your phone. You're just not appreciating everything that's going on around you because you just want to get to your darn destination. But there's so many roadblocks, there's traffic, there's construction. Well, if you have a driving car, that won't be the issue. You'll get to your place wherever, whenever, and wherever. But that makes me question, will there be new laws when it comes to being able to fly in the sky? How is that going to work? Are we going to have traffic lights that can also fly? I don't know, like in the cartoons and stuff. Worth considering. There will have to be new laws when it comes to multiple flying cars. This one in particular is a California-based firm saying their car is the only one that can do this. Yeah, to my knowledge, that is the case. So they plan to make first deliveries of Model A in 2025, having opened pre-sales just this Wednesday, October 19th. That is so cool. So they just opened their pre-sales a few days ago, and their first deliveries will be in 2025. This company described it as a solution to the issues of modern congestion. The Model A has a 200-mile range on the ground and a 110-mile range when flying. This is very cool, guys. Finally, see, we people in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, they thought, including myself, even though I was born in 99, that's fine, we all thought we were going to get flying cars in the year 2000, the turn of the century. That was an expectation because of all the sci-fi movies, books, cartoons, things like this. The year 2000 came, bam, we're going to get flying cars, we're going to be super futuristic. No, we didn't get any of that. Actually, we just got a scare instead, thinking that the world was going to end in the year 2000 and then again in 2012. But now in 2025, we should be able to get these flying cars. Guys, I'm excited. I don't know what I would do with one except go literally everywhere all at once, but I don't have that kind of cash on me. Still amazing. I mean, we didn't even have like hoverboards like depicted in Back to the Future, okay, in the year 2000. And I wish I had a hoverboard. I would definitely make sure to wear a helmet and some elbow pads, some knee pads, just to be safe. But we had all these expectations during the turn of the century. All of us were left disappointed. But now, that might not be the case. Maybe we can go back to being super excited for what our future tech has for us. And this one, first deliveries are coming out in 2025. Super cool. Interestingly enough, the company says they have been test flying a full-size prototype of Model A since 2019. So they've been sitting on this for quite some time, doing some pretty extensive tests on this, to the point where they feel somewhat ready. And they explain that it has a distributed electric propulsion system, no exposed propellers, extensive software flights stabilization and safety system, and it's all-wheel driving. People were excited for Tesla, right? You having these electric cars, having even electric semis that Pepsi ordered. Forget that. I want a flying car. I want one. So when I came across this one article, guys, I was nerding out. Look at this beauty. But I do have to ask, how much electricity does it take to charge this thing to make it go and do what it has to do? Because again, it's an electric propulsion system. Still very cool. Look at this. How they imagine the world to look. And if you look in this image, they have flying stoplights. And if you can tell, these are all going through straight lines. I do not think it would go that smoothly. Let's say we had 5 people that own these cars, 100, 1,000, let's say even 1 million people bought this car, right? It's going to be so chaotic in the skies. People are going to have to like figure out how to properly have proper traffic going on in the skies. When are they going to create these stoplights? Are there going to be stop signs as well? You got to avoid Skyrims. You got to be safe. Definitely do not give your keys to your 16-year-old. Right? There's got to be safety precautions here. And if you're flying over the water, what happens if all of a sudden like your car dies? So yeah, you're gonna have sky jams. You gotta avoid the sky. Gotta avoid the rims of the bridges, or like in the video game Skyrim, also great. They turned into a TV show, I believe. Fantastic. But yeah, you're going to have sky jams everywhere. I think so. But also very cool. Very cool. I'm for it. Hyde says, where we're going, we don't need roads. But we do need rules. That is a must. And then you're going to have all of these other companies creating their super cool flying cars. You're going to have like a Lamborghini car. You're going to have a Honda flying car. You're going to have Toyota. All of these types of things. Patrice says, definitely going to be autopilot. Just for safety? Yes. I would hope so. Scotta says, a material world. Oh, yeah. DJ Knight said, those would be super loud. I guess we'll have to find out. Maybe they won't be. They probably will. I think for like the first few models until they get the hang of it. Right now, they only have a Model A, and they started with A for a reason, right? They got to go from A to Z. So I think that the first one, yeah, it might be a little bit loud, but by the time they get to Z, it should be decent. But then, there's another thing. If there's just a few flying cars, people would mistaken them for a UFO. And people like, New Fork, MUFON, these places, they're going to get so many more phone calls stating, I just saw a UFO, but it was super loud. It was actually just a flying car. Until we figure it out all together. Laura says, electric should be quieter. See, I think so. I think it's a possibility, but again, we won't know until we hear it for the first time in 2025. They ran tests since 2019, but those tests have not been made public. Understandable. Patricia says, I'll be impressed when we get flying buses. Like the Magic School Bus, the cartoon. That was a great one. They're able to like shrink and get really big and time travel. I want a bus like that. All right. We got some time left. Hold on. A thought just came to me. Forget the flying car. Forget the space balloon. Forget the Magic School Bus. I want a TARDIS. Yeah. If I was able to have one wish, just what? For a vehicle that I could have, vehicle specifically, right? It would be a TARDIS. That's what I would want. Who here loves Doctor Who? Look, I want David Tennant back as the Doctor. Okay? Right? I mean, who watches that show? Who is your favorite Doctor? I just told you mine. David Tennant. He amazing. Great character. And like you really felt like he was living his life as Doctor Who. I even saw him in the TV show Good Omen. Great TV show. I really enjoyed it. But I all I could see was him as Doctor Who, but like as a slight villain. Still fantastic, to be honest. He's my favorite. So how many of you? Laura says yes. Definitely in TARDIS. Today is Back to the Future Day, October 21st. Is it really? Happy Back to the Future Day, everybody. I didn't know it was even a thing. That's awesome. But who's it? Before we even continue, who here's a Doctor Who fan? Patrice says, my favorite Doctor as well is David Tennant. Yes. He's the best. Matt Smith, I think he comes as a pretty close second. It took a while for me to like grow on his character, but after a few episodes, I'm like, you know what? He's doing an awesome job. He actually has really big shoes to fill, and he did a pretty good job. I was impressed. Deranged Lunatic said, old school Tom Baker. Yeah, he was good. He was good. Jessica says, I love Doctor Who. 10 out of 10. But when it comes to Tom Baker, his scarf was awesome. It was 10 out of 10. Really liked it. I did have to catch up, not gonna lie, because I didn't grow up watching Doctor Who. Just wasn't a part of my cultural environment. But as I had entered college and I came across people talking about Doctor Who, I'm like, what is this? And then I saw it and I said, I'm hooked. I got to watch it from the very beginning until Matt Smith. And that's kind of where I stopped watching it. Because one, I just didn't have the time anymore. But two, Matt Smith was like the last really good doctor, in my opinion. Make that very clear. In my opinion. We have a few minutes left. I saved a pretty freaky article for you as my last one. Neurostream, thank you so much for the super sticker. Okay. These are the actual photos of the surgical procedure. What am I talking about? Let me tell you. This one is crazy. On October 10th, a hospital in Rome did an open brain surgery while the patient was playing the saxophone wide awake. So they open up his skull, they're touching his brain while this guy is playing the saxophone. Let me explain. Because it sounds like torture, but it's not. So a team of 10 surgeons kept their patient, who has only been identified as GZ, awake. He kept him awake for 9 hours of surgery to allow these surgeons to help him navigate through the brain while they worked to remove a brain tumor. What does that mean? I'll explain. So thanks to the anesthesia that he had, all the patient felt during the procedure was the rhythm of his jams as he blew through the surgery with the playlist that included the 1970s film Love Story theme song and the Italian national anthem. Dang. Pretty much the reason to why they did this is that while this patient was able to play the saxophone and while the surgeons were touching his brain, depending on how he played the instrument, meaning missing notes, pausing, playing quickly, or playing slower, it helped the surgeons navigate through the brain on what to touch and what not to touch because brain tumors are incredibly, incredibly difficult to remove safely, right, without damaging anything. So they kept him awake, but using some pretty intense anesthesia, and it was a success. Turns out that these neurosurgeons do at least 50 awake surgeries every single year, customizing the operations based on the patient's lifestyle. So in this case, with G.Z, he was able to play the saxophone. There might be others who could play the flute, maybe one that could potentially play the guitar. I don't know. One that could possibly start drawing or doing a coloring book. This is crazy when I came across this article. But then I remembered brain surgery has been going on for centuries. It is nothing new. Back in the day, centuries prior, they didn't have anesthesia. Those surgeons just went in cold on people without anything except maybe some alcohol to ease somewhat of the pain. But they were kept usually awake. So this isn't a new practice, but it might sound maybe in a sense a little bit barbaric, but also incredibly fascinating that this patient was able to play the saxophone while he was having open brain surgery. Tina says, what a nightmare. DJ says, that would be a nightmare. It's pretty scary. And I thought a lot about whether putting this article in today's show or not, because it's one of those stories that brings home our own more mortality, and the brain is regarded as the home of the consciousness. Of course, right? But is it? So I often wonder if like the brain is the interface between the soul and the physical body. I do remember reading I can't remember reading somewhere a quote that said the brain is so mysterious and complex. It is the kind of machine only a ghost can operate. Let me read that one more time. The brain is so mysterious and complex. It is the kind of machine only a ghost can operate. That was a quote I came across a while ago. I was able to actually save it, and I'm reading it to you now because I had it saved for today's article. But it is one that I just kind of I've always kept with me. And when I came across this article, while this is freaky but also fascinating, this is another tangent on where my mind went. What do you think about these things? I'd like to know in the live chat. We got a few minutes left. I want to hear what you have to say. Scotta says, invisible property, yes. Yes. Tina, thank you. That's a good theory, Christina. Thank you so much. It's something worth just talking about, musing about. I do not have all the answers. I do not have a lot of the answers, but I am so curious. I want to know. I want to understand, and I also want to have these conversations with you because speaking about this, debating or conversing about it opens not only my mind but your mind as well to the mere possibilities or to look at it from a different perspective as well. That's why I do this. Patrice says, brain must be running different software than Windows. That's funny. I started off being very interested in UFOs only, but that led me into so many other mysteries, like life after death is one of the biggest now that I'm looking into. And while Jimmy and I did do a show on that for Mysteries with the History quite some time ago, I'm still doing research on it. Life after death. That is so amazing. And probably one of the biggest questions that humans have. What happens after we cross over? Robert Bigelow is having these questions, who is the owner of Bigelow Aerospace and of one of the hotel chains. And the name always slips my mind, but for the most part, he's incredibly rich. He was also one of the previous owners for Skinwalker Ranch, and he's asking these big questions. What happens after we die? Does our consciousness continue when this body is done for? And he is throwing in extensive money on the research, bringing incredible minds to have them write thesis papers on to look for these answers. He just did a contest rather recently on life after death, and he's doing another one. Papers are due in 2 years. White papers are due in 2 years on does our consciousness continue after the body dies? Those papers that have been written by some incredible scientific minds, I do recommend that you read them if you are interested in this topic the way that I am, because they bring the science into what some of our ancestors have been saying for centuries. And the great thing about science is that it doesn't lie. Facts don't care about your feelings. So it's very, very cool. Well, that is all the time that we have for today. I think it really did fly by. If you enjoyed today's show, make sure to hit the like button before you head out. On Tuesday, Shifting the Paradigm, I have Tui Snyder, and we talk about graveyards, cemeteries, and the paranormal in the heart of Texas. It's a more of a spooky show. very interesting. I think you're really going to like this interview. So make sure to hit the notification bell on YouTube. Monday. I know I went Tuesday to Monday. Monday, The Unknown Zone at 10 a.m. PST is about Machu Picchu and the mysteries of Peru. The Unknown Zone is an 8 to 10 minute segment video of me narrating while showing B-roll. I've really enjoyed making them, but oh my gosh, does it take so much more work than I anticipated. 8 to 10 minute video is harder than I thought it would be. But I do it not only for myself, but for those to get interested in the topic and for those that want to see more B-roll. I respect that. I get it. I know it. And then Thursday is going to be the Mysteries of Egypt Part 2 with Jimmy Church on Mysteries with the History. And then Friday is Strange Weekly News that we are doing like this every single time. All right. Well, that is it for today. Be safe. And remember, keep your eyes on the skies.